So let's start. Lady first. How about starting from Sarah?
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to. Thanks for the invite. So we start our process. So I'll share my screen or?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure.
You can share a screen for your side.
All right, let me get this up and running. And we'll start the presentation. All right, so my name is Sarah. I work at the City of San Jose. I'm the ADU ally. Usually the first stop is the webpage, and then to me. I have my contact information listed down below, and we'll cover some tips to get through the permitting process and learn about it in San Jose. So I get some common questions, and usually the first one is, how long does it take to get an ADU permit? So there are two possible tracks initially. So the fastest track is a pre-approved ADU program. So we have vendors that contact us, and they go through the a plan review process to have a master file. So that's one ADU design, and they are all detached new construction. That is the fastest because our vendors already know the process, they've been through it, they understand, and we also have a set of plans that are pre-approved, and if no changes are being made to that, it's really quick to get through plan review. The second option is traditional ADU plan review and the permit process, where a homeowner would hire a licensed architect, engineer, or designer to create their plans for them and then go through plan review. So that takes a little bit longer because there aren't some pre-approved plans in the mix there. So we've covered that topic, and moving on through the rest of the presentation, we'll discuss how to start planning the ADU, what the timeline may be, excuse me, and what do you need in the submittal package, and how much are the ADU permits, and how can you apply for one during shelter in place, which is big on everybody's minds. So the best place to start with the planning and timeline is to visit our web pages. Your pathway to a completed ADU that you will see on the right-hand side. It gives you a flow chart to get through the permitting process. The first step is to look at the ADU permit and plan review process webpage. It has a lot of handouts and information. You'll use the web pages and the bulletins to conduct some property research and learn about the ADU requirements. One of the initial documents for homeowners in particular, or the design professionals who are helping them, is our ADU universal checklist. It does prompt you to visit our online records webpage at sjpermits.org and use the ADU universal checklist. So you'll use SJ Permits to look up the property and look up bits of information that you'll use to answer the questions in the checklist. The first page of the checklist goes a long way to let you know what additional permits or clearances or studies, surveys may be needed for a potential ADU that you propose on your property, such as easements. Easements are areas where you shouldn't and cannot build items. Usually those are found in the title report of the property when it was purchased. Historic designations, geohazard zones, and flood zones, those will all kind of change the path of your ADU design and submittal. So it may take a little bit longer to get through plan review processes for those, but no worries if you do live in a geohazard or a flood zone, or if you need additional review for your ADU. We do it all the time. It's just a good step to know that you're becoming aware of your property, what the requirements are, and how to adjust moving forward. And all of this will help you and your design team streamline plan review and get through really quickly. So part of getting through plan review really quickly is providing a complete and accurate submittal package with plans and documents and forms. To prepare the plans, we've already talked about the ADU universal checklist, where you conduct the property research and answer some questions. In that, you'll understand ADU requirements on that property. So that's the first step. And then for your design professionals creating those plans, they would use the ADU building plan requirements worksheet and the inspection checklist for ADUs to create your plans. Along with the submittal package, we'll need to receive some additional documents, addressing. So every ADU does require its own address. So we'd need that application coming along with your submittal. The ADU property owner declaration, there are some requirements to have an ADU on the property. You cannot sell it separately from the single family home. And there's some other bits of information listed on that document. So feel free to read through it. Of course, you would want to read it before you sign it and submit. So for ADUs, we also need to receive a hydrant and water flow letter and a map from the water company that services the property. Our information online and the ADU universal checklist will help you understand the requirements for that and how to get it. And then we'll need a building permit application. So these are all of the standard things that would be required for an ADU submittal. Some customers have also had some questions about the parking requirements for ADUs. There are some exemptions and exceptions, so go ahead if you are converting your garage or if you're considering an ADU, I suggest you read through this webpage and understand the parking requirements. But if you are converting a garage to an ADU, then you would not be required to replace the parking for the single family home. That's really important to note. So I get some additional questions. Usually it's how long does plan review, how long does it take to get the permit, and how much is it going to cost? And there's some additional fees to keep in mind: construction taxes, how much is the permitting, over a certain size, there will be some impact fees. And we did talk a little bit earlier about the clearances, which will have additional plan review time. In some cases, they may require additional permits, which would be an extra line of fees. So getting directly into the fees, how much are they? Are there development construction taxes included? And then what are some other key pieces for homeowners to keep in mind and moving forward? So the ADU permitting fees in San Jose can be around $7,000 to $10,000 for ADUs that range from $499 to our maximum, which is 1,200 square feet. These fees do include plan review, permit, taxes, but they do not include impact fees, which are Parkland fees. So if ADUs that are over or at 750 or over square feet, then they would require the impact fees. So to reduce those fees, you would want to construct possibly an ADU that is less than 750 square feet. That'll save you some money. To understand some additional fees, you can visit the Fees for ADUs webpage. And to reduce the fees, again, as well as reducing the plan review time, you could opt for a pre-approved ADU option. Once again, those are all detached and new construction. So ADU development construction taxes, you would need to pay some taxes, and based on the square footage, here's an estimate of $3,000 to $6,200 for the same range of ADUs, $499 to $1,200. Please note that these fees do adjust on an annual scale. So feel free to check our fee schedule for that information. And you can also visit the development construction webpage to understand those fees. So some additional information, there are some impact fees, additional permits, we've talked about those, and then saving some money if you have an ADU that's less than 750 square feet. So we're talking about those impact fees again. If it's less than 750, you wouldn't be required to pay these fees. But if you want an ADU that is 750 or over, you would need to look at the fees that you may or that you would incur if you built over that. So the Parkland fees, an estimate, depending on where the property is in San Jose, you would be expected to pay fees that are $1,700 to $8,900. And the school fees are managed by the individual school districts. While you're looking at SJ permits, you can look up your school district and find their contact information. We do have a school fee document online. It does list their contact information, or you could do just a quick search online for it and contact them to see what the estimated cost would be for an ADU in that area and the size. So that wraps up all of the information that I have to share right now. I did want to make a statement that City Hall in San Jose is closed to the public, but we are continuing to work remotely. So we do intake, plan review, and inspections. We can get you in and out right now during shelter in place. And I've listed some contact information for me, for you. So you can visit our web pages. My email address is listed here. I am available by telephone, which is real key. And if you were already looking for free feedback from a planner, go ahead and complete the ADU Universal Checklist, create a site plan, and send it to the email. And that would be all for me.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I have a bunch of questions too. I have collected from the community, but before I go to Ben, that anybody, any attendee, if you have any questions, please leave at the Q&A space. Then after, at the latter part, that we will come back to your questions and ask the two representatives to answer your question. Q&A at bottom of your screen. Okay, so Ben, how about you? Do you have your share screen?
Mine is going to be very simple. We're trying to make it very simple, is how I'll say it. Let me get to the share screen here.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Are you able to see this slide yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm trying to hit that share screen, but for some reason it's not.
Okay, but it doesn't matter because we have the backup. So do you want to?
Hang on. I think okay, hang on. I think I may be able to get in.
Yeah, here
okay,
it comes.
Great.
Okay.
Are you able to see that slide right now?
Now, yeah, it's okay now.
Okay. So as Catherine has shared with all of you, I'm the chair of the Planning Commission for the City of Fremont. And what I'm going to be doing is sharing with you what we have done to try to streamline the submittal process. So let me get to make it a little bit easier for people to see. I only just have one slide to really just share, and what this is all about. Let me close that down. Is that I'm pretty sure Sarah knows that, you know, before we used to have maximum review time was 120 days. Now, as a city and as a state, we've now reduced it to 60 days. And the goal for us here in Fremont is to have a first response to that application for your ADU within 14 days. Typically, what we've been seeing is somewhere actually more like 7 to 10 days. It's the reason why of number 3, we have a dedicated staff that processes these applications. So we kind of do it a little old school. I know San Jose does a lot of their guidance and everything that's online, which is great. And we're trying to eventually emulate them. But at this point right now, Fremont, we have a dedicated staff of about 14 people right now that processes all these ADU requests for our city. So then when you do submit an ADU permit, we assign a city staffer to your project who becomes your project manager and your main contact person throughout the whole ADU process. The best way to contact that particular person, because of what's going on right now with the pandemic, email is best. Those city staffers receive notifications of these new messages almost instantaneously. I can assure you that is the case, because for those in the audience, you may not know, I am also currently building out my own attached ADU. So I was one of the original guinea pigs, you might say, to go through the whole process of how to take everything that went where you can see, moved everything from an over-the-counter system to now an all online system via Excella, which is our online tool, our website that we use as a number of other cities here in the Bay Area to submit all of your paperwork, including the blueprint diagrams for your ADU. We initially, during the early stage of the pandemic, did not anticipate that these blueprint diagrams are going to be so large, and so now we can actually upload up to a 5 GB file. So it should be more than enough memory to handle any blueprint diagrams necessary to be uploaded. And then because of the pandemic, we also have certain building inspections that can be done now virtually. And to take the lead from San Jose, we're now looking, we've already accepted manufactured homes, and we're now in the process of looking at pre-approved plans, so that, just like Sarah said, to streamline that whole process from initial application to completion. And that's, from my perspective, looking at it from a planning commissioner, this is what we've done as a city to help streamline the whole process, so that when from start to finish, if all goes well, cross your fingers, I'm looking at my own ADU. If it wasn't for the pandemic, from start to finish, it would be about 6 months.
That's very, yeah. So I went to your job site to take a look of your progress. It's very impressive. Okay, so anybody, if you have any question, please leave it at the Q&A space. I will come back one after my questions. I have collected beforehand a couple of questions. Okay, so maybe each question I will raise up to the two speakers, and maybe you can share your opinion. So first question is about the maximization of FAR. So it is said, even if the property has reached out its maximized FAR and up to 800 square feet of ADU is still allowed. Is it correct or not? Sarah, start from you. Oh, yeah, please open your microphone first.
Sure. So I don't have a planning background. So the FAR, as far as I understand with ADUs in particular, they will not count toward the FAR for the property. So outside of that information, maybe Benjamin could help to clarify, since he's planning specific. But if you're counting the ADU square footage toward the FAR for the property, it's my understanding that you would not need to.
Yeah, and I would concur too, because it's really dependent on what you currently have right now on the property before having that ADU being built.
For example, what kind of scenario will be allowed or not allowed, Ben?
Well, it depends on, the current footprint that's there, because, each city is a little bit different in terms of what that FAR is. And in our city, it's 40% or 0.4. So once you exceed that, then you're going to have a difficulty in order to build anything larger than, whatever that 0.4 is going to allow for your, for your lot size. So say, for instance, if it's 10,000, I'll just use a round number, 10,000 square feet, right? So you can't build anything more than a combined of 4,000 square feet.
Okay. I understand that for each local city municipal level, the ADU regulations are a little bit different. So if you have your ADU planning at different cities, except for San Jose or Fremont, first to check their website. If there is no information found, that you can email the planning department to have your question raised and try to get their answer first, and then come back to your ADU planning. Okay, yeah. So the following question regarding the maximization of AR is it acceptable? Is it acceptable to the homeowner to apply for ADU together with the main house when they have used out all their maximized FAR? Do you understand?
I'm trying to understand the question. They're trying to maximize the FAR with the combined with the main and the ADU.
Yes. So it is it is allowed to get one step, or the homeowner has to divide it into 2 steps to maximize their main house first and then apply for extra ADU, or we can apply when they maximize their main house together with the ADU project.
If I get the question correctly, I think that the best thing to do is try to do it right the first time. So trying to maximize on that ADU in combination with the main house. I mean, that's what I did.
Okay.
Because then you just do it right the first time rather than try to do something and change it in between. I'm pretty sure, Sarah, when there's a change, you know, with the plans of an ADU, you almost have to start almost like from scratch.
Right, yes, it will extend the plan review time for that.
Exactly.
Yes, so if this question is coming from a property owner in San Jose, to ask this question and ask for some feedback, you can look at that last slide that I shared, the zoning questions email address. That is a planning specific question email address. You can go ahead and send your question there, but your property does need to be in San Jose. Just wanted to let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and here in Fremont, I would definitely strongly suggest contacting any one of our planners in the planning department to give you guidance.
Okay, yeah, good. Okay, my second question is, will a second story ADU allowed, and will the second story ADU will go for a public hearing process? I know that both cities allowed, right?
Yes, the San Jose does allow two-story ADUs. There are setback requirements in particular for those. I do not believe that it would need to go to a public hearing. In a special circumstance, if I were to guess, it could be a historic property with an attached ADU potentially, because detached ADUs in on historic properties, since they are detached from the single family home, which is the historic piece on that property, then it wouldn't really be associated with it. But that's the one potential that I would see, which is fairly rare. But in that case, if you were to start the conversation in San Jose, it would be the zoning questions email address again.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually in Fremont, we do not allow two-story ADUs. We have a height restriction so that it forces it to be a one-story. The only time we've ever had a two-story ADU here, it was grandfathered in because it was the original application was done in 2018. So I only know of one ADU in the whole city of Fremont that actually is 2 stories because it was grandfathered in. But moving forward in 2020 to now, it's only going to be 1 story.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, good to know. And the third question is regarding JADU. So will JADU of less than 500 square feet will apply together with a proposed main house new construction? It is a proposed, not existing. I know that JADU should be converted from the existing living space, but is it allowed to be with proposed main house new construction?
So for the city of San Jose, I would expect it to be the same way across the board. For junior ADUs, it is a requirement to be conversion of existing final square footage. So if you wanted to propose a new single family home and have a junior ADU, you would construct the single family home entirely, go through plan review, have it permitted, and have the final approved final building inspection in hand before you can apply for that junior ADU, because it must be pre-existing square footage.
Yeah, exactly. We in Fremont concur.
Okay, yeah. So would JADU be counted for the maximized ADU allowed 1,200 square feet, for example, of the ADU maximum allowance?
I see what you're saying. Can you apply for a junior ADU and have a detached ADU that's possibly 1,200 square feet?
Exactly.
For property in San Jose that's over 9,001 square feet, yes. You could possibly have a detached 1,200 square foot ADU, and you would be allowed to have an attached, by definition, a junior ADU that's no greater than 500 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, and then in Fremont, our lot size has to be a little bit larger. Instead of 9,000 and change, ours is 10,000 and change in order to do that.
Okay, so 500 square feet is still allowed if the 1,200 square feet detached ADU on a more than 10,000 lot, right?
In Fremont, yes.
Fremont, right? I guess.
We have a little bit more land out here than San Jose, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah.
I wanted to also make the statement that that is for single family properties. Duplexes and multifamily properties in San Jose are not allowed to have the junior ADU, but they could have multiple detached or attached ADUs.
Yes. Okay. So the fourth question is about the amnesty program that I heard from some of my clients. They are a little bit frustrated when they try to connect with the kind of ally coordinator. Is it called in this way? So they cannot reach out and find a very efficient answer how they could start with their amnesty program application.
So specifically in San Jose, we do have a different ADU amnesty program, and there is an amnesty coordinator who is separate from me. They work in the code enforcement department. And to start that process, you would review the ADU amnesty program webpage. There is a self-assessment checklist, so you work through that and you would contact that coordinator with the information that's listed on those handouts. If you do have a hard time getting in contact with them, everybody's very impacted right now, and I would imagine that they are also. So you can CC me, which my email is adu.ally@sanjoseca.gov. So I'm the ADU ally. There is a different ADU amnesty coordinator that you would be working with to request amnesty. But you can CC us both on any correspondence or request. And if they have a hard time getting back to you, I can kind of chime in. But as far as I know, they are really responsive via email. And if you have a trouble with a place to start, the web page is really great. And if the only contact information you have is me, shoot me an email. I can get you to the right place.
So beautiful to have you.
I may have to contact her if I have any problems with my ADU. I'm just kidding.
Dan, it's your turn.
Yeah, I would go back to what I had said before, because we don't have a separate, ADU amnesty person. So whoever's your assigned planner that you would be initially speaking with, who would be your project manager, that person would be your advocate. So if there's any issues, that would be the person for us here in Fremont that you would talk to. And like I said, we have 14 different planners that would, and one of them would be assigned to you, and that would be your main point person to talk to.
Okay, yeah, good to know, good to know. So next comes the pre-approval plan. So Sarah mentioned this, but my question is that if the homeowner wants to use the pre-approved ADU plan, you mentioned it should be detached plan, right? So should I buy from the company, or I have to use for the plan and construction construction vendor for the approved company, from the approved company?
Yes, so the design for the program in San Jose is that any vendor can reach out to us and say, hey, I'm interested in pre-approving this particular design. If they are interested, we have a meeting with them, walk them through the requirements for plan review, then they submit for a pre-approved ADU design. Once that goes through plan review and it's approved as a master file, it then becomes a pre-approved ADU design, and we put the vendor information and their pre-approved designs on our webpage for customers to look at the designs that they would like using the vendor web pages. And if you would like to work with those plans in particular, you will need to work with that vendor in particular, because all of the expediting for that program happens with those vendors and those pre-approved designs. They've gone through plan review already. They have had individual meetings with us and our senior building engineer to understand exactly what they need to do to submit. So without them, we wouldn't really have a pre-approved ADU program. So the plans are their intellectual property and we cannot share them. So you would need to work with those vendors. And if you want to, if none of those designs work with what you expect, then you can hire your own designer and use all of our information on our web pages to work through it and streamline plan review with our handouts and information.
Understood. Understood. Okay, so Ben, is the city of Fremont has such kind of pre-approved plans?
No, we're actually trying to look into what San Jose is currently doing and hopefully emulate what they're trying to do, because we see the benefits of having something pre-approved to make it much easier for our audience to be able to just literally go through a catalog, pick and choose what they want, and then just go with the vendor that already knows how to build this because they've already been pre-approved. So we're having discussions right now as we speak to try to do something similar to what San Jose is doing.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so here comes the ADU Tuesdays. This is prevented by City of San Jose. That what type of projects will be eligible for the ADU Tuesdays in City of San Jose? Are there any conditions?
So right now we're unable to offer the ADU Tuesdays. Before shelter in place on ADU Tuesday, I would staff a counter in the permit center. Anybody could swing by, get a ticket. We'd have a little chat. I can pass them to other departments to ask additional questions. It's kind of like a live version of the ADU universal checklist. And we would also hold express plan review appointments for certain types of ADUs that weren't in geohazard zones, aren't in flood zones, didn't require those extra pieces of review that would take a longer time. So coming soon, we are going to start a pilot program with Zoom meetings and express plan review appointments. It will be for smaller scale ADUs, and we will be, all of the submittal for pre-approved plans would be going through that route. So stick with us for a little while. We're still working it out, but it's coming soon.
Okay, and stick with the CACP and ADU expert that we keep close contact with the major cities such as the City of San Jose and City of Fremont. Okay, so and Ben, you don't have such kind of ADU special day for the streamline?
No, but I'm going to write this one down and talk to my planning manager about this and maybe try to emulate an online version of it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so my last question, and then we'll go back to the Q&A online to see what the attendance is about. Okay, the last question is about the prefab ADU. So I know that prefab included for kind of a modular SIPs and also manufactured house that Ben mentioned just now. But is it the same application process to get with the stick build ADU application, Sarah?
So for prefab or modular, any type of ADU, the process is still the same, but you would need to provide particular submittal documents to show the certification of those the modular or the prefab units that you intend. So in San Jose, if you have questions about particularly what those would be, send an email to me and I can give you our response and the ADU submittal requirements as well. So it's just one fell swoop with here's what you need for the prefab and modular, and here's what you need for everything else. With the pre-approved vendors that you're going through, you wouldn't need to send me an email. They would know exactly what they need to do.
Okay, so the following question is the inspection process will be the same with the stick build ADU project?
So if the unit is being approved by a state or federal agency, the City of San Jose wouldn't be providing the inspection for those pieces, but we would be providing inspection for the items that our local jurisdiction is responsible for, things like the foundation, connections to the sewer line, and things like that. I'm sure there's much more.
Okay. When you mentioned the federal approved, that I'm not sure that how many our attendees will know the meaning of the why you mentioned the federal approved. but I know because the modular and SIPs belongs to the state regulated, and the manufacturer house belongs to the federal regulated. So those are different systems that should apply for different inspection ordinance, right?
Yes, you're taking something that was built somewhere else and double checked for safety and requirements somewhere else. And we need to see that documentation to show, yes, we've looked at it. Yes, it's meeting all of these requirements. And it also would need to meet the requirements in San Jose.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and then the manufacturer or the prefab, we call it the prefab.
Right, right. I mean, as you saw in my slide, we had just recently approved accepting those. So, you know, we don't have anything that's pre-approved. They have to actually go through the same process as a stick build over here too, because this is all still new to us here in Fremont. So that's what's our current status right now. And hopefully we can emulate. That's why I know that I'm talking to her counterparts in the Planning Commission in San Jose to see, you know, what can we learn from them and try to take the best of their ideas and kind of steal it over here to Fremont.
Okay, learn in a very efficient way.
Yes, right. Yeah, we'll learn. Yeah, you know, why reinvent the wheel?
Okay. I'll come to the Q&A online, and if anybody has further question, please leave it on the Q&A space. I will answer. I will ask the two representatives answered one by one. Okay, first comes to the Jeannie. If the property is in city of San Jose, but under the county of Santa Clara, if ADU application will need to go to the Santa Clara County, I'll go to the city of San Jose. Sarah.
So there are pockets of San Jose that you'll have an address that says San Jose, but everything you would be required to meet the county's jurisdiction requirements. So to find that out, you can search your property on SJ permits, look at the property information, see where it says jurisdiction. If it says that it's unincorporated, then you would be contacting the County of Santa Clara Planning and Development Department to process that ADU application. But if it says San Jose, then read through our web pages and let me know if you have any questions.
So I'm sure that Jeannie's question is, it is sure that property will be under the county of Santa Clara. So you have to go to the county to make your application to the county office. And yeah, to ask them to submit them to them. Yeah. Correct. I have a couple of cases that is with this with the zip code in San Jose, but it belongs to the county of Santa Clara. Okay, yeah, I know. So I know it. Oh, next one is Charles Liu. Ben, do you mean that all online permitting process during the pandemic is actually faster than the in-person application process?
Well, I guess I can say that from personal experience because I was already submitting, you know, the paperwork prior to the pandemic, and then having to compare it to what's going on with the online, you know, permitting application process. And so for me, at least, the online is certainly much faster because before the pandemic, you'd have to wait in line, you know, physically have to wait in line. And so now, because of our planners that are dedicated to do this, and they see the emails coming in so fast, they can process it much more efficiently. And on one hand, I guess because of the pandemic, they're actually working longer hours because, you know, working from home, it's very easy for them to do more than an 8-hour day. But, yes, you know, they're troopers, all of them.
Occasionally, I have my email replied from the planning department from city of San Jose, from city of Fremont, that they reply my email in as late as 10 at the night, 11 p.m. whatever. So they are very diligent to answer your questions, answer your email.
I'm certain I know which planners that do that.
Okay, I'll let you know. Okay, so next comes the Cindy Yan's question. My house is on the hill in San Jose. The first level has one bed, half bathroom with 1,300 square feet. I want to build it two to three bedroom, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen. What kind of permit should I need to get, ADU or regular permit?
So the way this reads, I'm assuming that it would be you're proposing an attached, like an addition. So for San Jose, with 2 kitchens in a single family home, you would automatically be required to label that as an ADU. In San Jose, we allow up to 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. With a single family home with a square footage that size, you could have an attached ADU with a maximum square feet of 800. But you could have a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, potentially attached 800 square foot ADU on that property if it qualified for an ADU.
Okay, so one more thing that I would like to add on is when you apply for addition, expansion, that you could see the setback. If the setback is enough, no matter is the front, side, or rear setback, if enough, that there is no problem for you apply for a common addition or ADU. But if the setback is too less for you to expand a lot, it is better for you to apply as an ADU because the ADU setback will be as less as 4 feet. Am I correct?
For the setback, as far as the single family home, the setbacks for this proposed project would be required to meet the requirements of the single family home if it were to be attached. Okay. If it were detached as a second story, then it would be required to have the 4-foot setback from being a second story.
Okay, got you. Okay, got you. Okay, so next comes the question from Maria. Is there a difference from an apartment versus ADU? I assume the Maria's question is, if with a R1 zoning, for example, a build ADU, is it the same or equivalent with an apartment? Who would like to answer Maria's question?
Ben, would you like to take a stab at that?
I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, so the question, they're trying to determine if this ADU is like an apartment or, I mean, zoned as an apartment. Is that what they're trying to ask?
So say if on the R1 zoning, adding an ADU is kind of 2 independent units, right?
Correct.
So is it kind of the same or similar with the apartment of, for example, duplex?
In terms of the zoning?
This is what my understanding.
In terms of the zoning?
In terms of the purpose of using.
Oh, the purpose? Well, sure. I mean, certainly an ADU could be I mean, you rent it out, right? It's almost just like an apartment. I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, they're equivalent in that respect. I mean, you can rent it out, but from a planner's perspective, and what we look at an ADU is what its intended purpose, what we hope for people to use it for if they rent it out like an apartment, to make it affordable. Because right now, our biggest push, looking at it from a planning commissioner's perspective, is trying to provide affordable housing, for people that want to be able to afford to live here, to be able to work here. And so we look at the ADU as one of those solutions to help provide affordable housing. So to go back to the question, yes, you could definitely rent it out as an apartment. And if you want to charge market rate, that's your choice. But we hope that people, have a good heart and maybe rent it a little bit lower,
Okay. So we comes to Charles another question. There are common ADU pre-approved plans being sold on the web. Can those plans be approved quickly by San Jose or Fremont?
So if a vendor is offering some plans and wanted to have them pre-approved in San Jose, they'd send me an email. I would connect them and give them the information to have a preliminary meeting where they would show us the plans. Our senior building engineer would take a look at them and help them understand the requirements to submit, and then they would go through the process. So the first step is checking in with the ADU ally, and I'll give you the next steps.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, and here in Fremont, we're still in the early stages of that. So we're actually encouraging vendors like that to submit their information to us, and then we'd take a look at it and see if it makes sense for us to actually put it in our database and pre-approve it.
Okay, so now comes the Ali or Ali. Is tiny homes prefabricated units considered ADUs?
Hi, Ollie. I've met you in City Hall. I hope you're doing really well.
Okay.
So yes, tiny home on wheels are available in the city of San Jose. Check out our landing page. There is a permit checklist specifically for that. So fill it out, send it over to the zoning questions email address. If you have some additional questions, you can get started that way. It's the tiny home on wheels permit checklist.
But the tiny homes, when we mentioned that it should be less than 400 square feet, right?
Yes, maximum 400 square feet, minimum 150, all detached, and they wouldn't need an address like the junior ADU and the ADUs.
Okay. Ben, can I skip you from this question?
Yes, you can, because we don't have that program.
Okay, Wang Xi, what is the maximum number of bedrooms allowed in an ADU? Is there minimum number of bathrooms or kitchens required for an ADU?
So the maximum number of bedrooms allowed for ADUs in San Jose is 2, maximum number of bathrooms 2. The requirements for the ADUs is a place to sleep, a kitchen, and a bathroom for the ADUs, and the laundry tray or a standpipe for an automatic clothes washer. Those are the things that I distinguish for ADUs in particular. So yes, I hope that answers. And a quick check with the ADU Universal Checklist, reading through all of that, you'll understand more of the requirements for the kitchen.
Okay, so are there any difference in City of Fremont, Ben?
No, she articulated the same thing that we currently have.
Okay, so another question from Wang Xi. If cities are developing pre-approved ADU plans, then is it possible the manufacturers can prefab the modular ADU unit associated with a pre-approved plan such that no review process is needed?
So the site that you're putting a pre-approved or a modular unit on will always need to be considered. And for the city of San Jose, there was a little piece in that I wanted to kind of point out, but I've lost it. I'm sorry. Benjamin, do you have anything to add?
No, well, I could tell you right now in Fremont, we're still in the process of having these discussions to try to get it to a point where you are in San Jose.
Okay.
But I know that to answer that question, just because we pre-approve a vendor and their plan, we still have to go through the permitting process to make sure everything is in place and set on its foundation, make sure the connections are correct. All of those things still have to go through an inspector to make sure that it's all up to code.
Okay. So would Wang Xin keep contact with Sarah? Just email her or just make a phone call so that maybe Sarah will find the answer later and give you more detailed information later, okay? And the last one will come to Gary Pan's question. What is tiny home on wheel? Is it like a mobile home trailer? Sarah?
It is a smaller scale home having all of the internal parts of the ADU, the kitchen, the bathroom, the laundry tray or the standpipe for the automatic washer. Maybe that isn't applied for the tiny home on wheels. That's why you got to check out the checklist. But essentially, yes, it is a small home that is on wheels. It will always stay on the wheels to be a tiny home on wheels. Once you want to take it off of the wheels and put it onto a permanent foundation, it would be labeled an ADU and you would need to address it and have all of those additional requirements. But Gary, yes, it is essentially a smaller scale home on wheels.
Okay, so Sarah, would you take the last minute to share your contact information page to let the audience write down?
Yeah, sure. Let me bring back and I'll share my screen once again. So here's all the goody information. The landing page is that first site you see there. There's my email address. I'm available by phone. And if you have any of those tiny home on wheel checklists that are filled out and you want to contact someone for additional information, use this email address, the zoning questions. Go ahead and fill out some information. Anything that you give in advance just serves to help them answer your questions a little bit more in detail.
Okay, yeah. So here's the concludes the panel discussion on the municipal level, the streamline planning and permitting process. So then we'll come to the next panel discussion. Appreciate very much for Sarah and Ben's excellent presentation today, and thank you very much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.